we are live with Investor Thrive. How you doing, Brad?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to see you today. It's been a busy day. How about you? How's your day been going?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great.
Good, good. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on my podcast today, the Painless Wholesaling Podcast. And what we do here is we try to shorten the learning curve on how to do deals, how to be wholesalers, how to invest in real estate. And it sounds like you're the perfect guy to have on here. I mean, you've done tons of deals.
I've done a few.
Okay. Well, let's talk about it, man. So for people that don't know you, give us a short 30-second, I guess, synopsis idea of who you are.
Yeah, I read a book in ninth grade on how to buy real estate with no money down. And I knew that I always wanted to do real estate because I could make a bunch of money doing it. So I bought my first house in July of 2003 while I was working a full-time job. Bought 6 houses in July and August. October, I came home and told my wife, we just had a new baby, that I quit my job and I was going to start Express Home Buyers. And she's like, "Are you crazy?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "It'll be fine." And here we are 19 years later at 4,000 houses, and it's worked out pretty well.
Oh my gosh. And hey, I'm just curious, with doing that much volume, you must have to have an amazing team behind you, right? Or were you doing this all, with like a couple people?
No, no, no. We have an amazing team, and it's so amazing to the point where we're going to do probably 300 deals this year, and I work about 3 hours a week in the business.
Wow. And so you've placed the right people in the right positions to pretty much take over the whole thing, huh?
Yeah, it took me a while. I mean, we didn't always have a perfect team, but we've got a great team now.
What is just curious, what does a structure like that can do that kind of volume look like? Like how many people are needed to do those many deals?
So we have 5 or 6 people on our acquisition team, and then some accounting, finance, probably 3, 4 people on construction/disposition, and then we have about 12 or 13 full-time virtual assistants.
Okay. So virtual assistants are key in this model, right? Like I'm assuming pulling the list, like lead gen, doing a lot of that stuff.
They don't do anything on the marketing or lead gen side. They just handle the leads and call back and process everything.
Wow. Okay, but they're not the acquisitions closers, are they?
No,
Okay.
no, but they will set appointments. Yeah, they'll set appointments.
So they're the leads managers of your companies, just like, initially getting the interest and setting up appointments.
So they're more overflow, Nathan. So they'll, like, if no one answers on our staff or it's after hours or something, they'll rather than take it a message or whatever, they'll actually set the appointment.
Got it. Okay. Wow. And we probably could just talk all day about how the business is split up, right? And that might be a call for another time. But let's talk about something that it seems like from just what we've talked about recently, you're super passionate about. Can you kind of go into like that story and tell people what's going on with that?
Yeah. So 20 months ago, trying to get my son help for anxiety, I was on a Zoom call and the lady said, "You have a tick," in like the first 5 minutes. I was like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "You blink profusely when you talk about your childhood trauma. Would you like to come out and work with us? Because your son's problems probably are a cause. You may be a cause of your son's problem." So I went out and for a weekend, flew to Park City and worked with her and her ex-Navy SEAL husband, and they changed my life. I mean, really, it wasn't even a weekend. It was like a 3-hour session. I came out of there just a completely different human being. And we just went back to my childhood and figured out the stresses and the traumas and the stories that we as human beings tell ourselves around those traumas to get us through, that serve us at the time when we're 6 years old. But when you're 47 years old, telling yourself you're no good and you can't do this and you can't do that, and you're not smart enough, whatever it is, you're not good enough. It doesn't serve you, and it's the cause of most problems in this world, whether it's addictions or relationships, divorces, obesity. All go back to how we feel about ourselves, and it's all from childhood. So my life changed so dramatically and so amazingly that I've now dedicated the rest of my life to helping people find the same freedom and happiness that I've found.
Wow. So those two people you met in Park City, I don't know if you knew this, but I live in Salt Lake City, so I'm pretty close. Do you mind sharing who they were? I might.
It's Larry and Annie Yatch.
Wow. So ex-Navy SEAL, huh?
Yep.
Did a lot of what he had to say contribute to his ex-Navy SEAL, like being in I guess in that position, did that contribute to like his mindset and why he believed that and taught you, or is it just a different thing?
No, I think he's just a really sharp, smart individual, and he figured this out over the years working with people. He worked with a lot of CEOs, and he'd come into their companies to help them, and he's like, "Wait, the problem isn't with your company. The problem is how you think." So he literally designed this around that. If your business, I mean, if anything is in chaos in your life, whether it's you don't go to the gym or you weigh too much or your marriage sucks or your business is in chaos or always up and down starving for cash. You've got to look at why is that happening. You got to go to the source of the problem. The source of the problem is typically always happens between birth and 10 years old, where your brain is programmed. And people are like, how can that be? Well, your subconscious mind never forgets anything, and your
Yeah.
subconscious mind is what rules 80 to 90% of your behavior on a daily basis. So you're doing all this behavior and activity, and most people don't even know why they're doing it. They're driven by this programming from when they were 6 years old.
Well, I mean, that kind of makes me feel like if everything has to go between your birth and 10 years old, then maybe people should focus more on figuring out what happened in that time, right?
Well, they should. Again, it's a cause of. I can pretty much trace anything bad in anyone's life probably back to that time period of life where their brain was being formed.
Wow. So I watched a podcast with Joe Rogan. I think he had a medical expert on there, and how he was saying that like a lot of the ADHD and a lot of these problems stem from like the way you were raised in that time period, and living, I guess, in anxiety, right? Like, is that something that you've even heard of, or
This is this is likely the guy Gabor.
that's him? Yeah, Gaber, he's the man.
Dude, he's amazing. He's one of my mentors. I studied under him.
No way, that guy was just a genius.
Incredible. So here's what he says. This is a 600-page book I just showed you. 600 pages of saying that every health disease can be traced back to childhood, unresolved childhood trauma. ADHD, let's just use that as an example.
Okay.
ADHD is a child's mind saying something's really bad happened to me at 6. So what do? Your brain does what it's supposed to do. It checks out. It disassociates. So then nothing ever changes because your subconscious brain doesn't know time, right? So at
Mhm.
17 or 27 or whatever it is, you're still disassociating. So there's no he claims, and he's a doctor, he's been doing this for 40 years, that there's no such thing as ADD or ADHD. And you don't need medication because it never solves anything. It is a
Right.
disease of childhood that all you have to do is go back and figure out when it started and reprogram your mind around the truths and not the untruths. So amazing you saw that, because this guy is he is so great. Cancer, MS, eczema, like on and on and on. Things are, when your body is under stress for a long time, it breaks down physically, and that's why illnesses occur.
So let's talk about that. So obviously, if I have I don't have any kids, right? But when I have a kid, from what Gabriel was saying, from what I understood was, you need to be attentive, you need to be present with your children, you need to be there to I guess support them, right? And if you don't, then there's that stress level. Is that correct? Is that like you need to spend more time with the people you love, especially in that 1 to 10 age range?
Yeah, I do a daily video every single day, and one of the videos that got the most views was quoting him that basically said, "Every problem in a person's life and every suffering can be down to can be traced back to unmet childhood needs." So a lot of people, when they think about trauma, they're like, "Well, I wasn't, bullied by my neighbor. I wasn't molested. I wasn't sexually assaulted." Well, that's a big T trauma. This is his words. Little T trauma is, you can be completely messed up the rest of your little sister was born. You thought your parents loved her more than you. So absolutely 100% he's right.
Shoot. So is that, or do you have kids
If
in
you're
that age?
met, it doesn't have to be huge. It can be small.
Yeah. Do you have kids in that age
I
range right
have
now?
kids. Yep.
Okay. Is that something you're
I have
really,
kids that are, I
sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So the reason my son has the reason my son has anxiety is because of the way that I parented him and the way that his mother parented him before I made this transformation. So yeah, I've been a single dad for 11 years. I did
Mhm.
everything for my son and daughter. But yet, even though I was attentive and loving and affectionate, my childhood pain was putting undue pressure on him to be like a worse golfer, and that gave him anxiety.
Shoot. That's wild. Man, this is giving me a lot to think about, right? With raising children and also addressing anybody's past child traumas, right?
Yeah, Nathan. I mean, the thing about children that's really important is, if you are listening to this and your children or child have behavioral issues, the first place you should look is in the mirror, because you 100% are the cause of your child. 100% maybe a stretch, 99%, 98%. If your child has behavioral issues, it's because of you. And Gabor wrote a book with his son, who's also in the business. It's
Mhm.
called "Don't Lose Hold of Your Child" or something like that. Keep your child, and it's all about how every behavioral problem that a child has is around lack of connection with their parent. And punishments do no good. Like hitting a child, oh my God, the worst thing you could ever do. People are like, oh, you need to spank your kid so they have just so they'll respect you. No, 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 no. That's the worst thing you can ever do, because the one person in that child's life that's supposed to protect them, they're going to inflict harm, violence, and shame on that child. And that's going to fix the child. That's going to help them. No, that's going to screw the child up. So if you're spanking your children thinking you're doing something good, you're definitely not.
Oh my gosh. Well, what's your opinion on the way society is right now, and how people are very like distracted right now with technology and not really being present? Do you feel like there's going to be more issues with kids growing up in this day and age?
There are more issues. Not are there going to be. I mean, the 15 to 25-year-old age range is probably the most troubled 10-year age range that exists right now, and
Mhm.
it's because of the devices. It's because of lack of connection. So all of our problems, when we have that childhood trauma, all it's really doing is taking us out of connection with ourselves. So lack of connection with yourself is terrible. Lack of connection with other people is terrible. So the fact that you can now order food from your house, work from home, get your laundry done from, you never have to leave, right? So
Mhm.
it's creating a further disconnection. And then the technology of these phones is they want to keep you constantly there. So they do things to keep your brain constantly go, 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 go. Your brain was supposed to be in, well, go back to 1,000 years ago when we were, living on the plains or in caves even further back.
Mhm.
um, there wasn't danger all the time. You would stay around, you'd go hunt, you'd have like 20% where your brain is in an active state, like a fight or flight, and 80% the other time. It's reversed now. It's like most human beings spend 80% of time in like this super jacked up fight or flight mode, and it's not good at all.
What's your solution?
The solution is connection. So the solution to everything is take a look at your childhood and figure out those traumatic times you went through, and then reverse those faults and turn them into the truth, and live by the truth. For children, it's getting outside, it's having their parents listen to them. Gabor says the child has to be seen, heard, and understood. So if you're a parent, you should be doing that. You should be forcing your kids to get out of the house, off of their gaming, into nature, into sports, into biking, whatever it is. Just get out of the house and connect with other human beings.
Shoot. Well, do you feel like moving to a remote area where there's bad service and they have to go out in the woods? Do you feel like that's a good idea?
I mean, I don't know about that. That might be a little extreme.
Well, I'll tell you this. My wife is from Canada and she's 2 hours north of Toronto. And whenever I go there, it's like my happiest time. They live in like what's called cottage country. It's like out in the middle of, the fields. And it's just so fun. Everybody there is just like slower pace. They're just enjoying their ice rink, hockey, the homemade stuff. It just seems like connection is more important there. And then in Salt Lake City, Utah, or wherever, when you go in cities, it's like boom, 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 it's just a go, go, go. So are you saying that the lifestyle, maybe even capitalism that's driving this is going to be it's just too much?
So look, I think that if people got the right help, I mean, you can. It's not your environment so much. It's your thought process, how you think, and then it's not your outside environment. It's not what's going on in the city as much as what's going on in your own house. Are you stuck in your room all day playing video games all day? Yeah, that's really really bad. That can happen in the farm, or that can happen in the Bronx. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
just get out and be with nature and be with people.
So about the child addressing the childhood trauma, like how would you suggest someone go about that if they're watching this? Like, do they reach out to you? Do they reach out to a therapist? How does that work?
I mean, either all the above, really. Just go get someone. When you look for someone, 83% of Americans identify as not being very happy. So that probably puts 83% of life coaches and therapists in that same bucket, right? So I would ask them questions around, what does their life look like? What does their relationships look like? Have they made the transition? Are they happy? Or are they constantly in a fight or flight mode? Are they constantly stressed? Do they overeat? Or do they do drugs? Are they addicted to something? So
Mhm.
so it's really hard finding someone who's done where you're trying to go. I've made this transition. I'm as happy and as free as I've ever been in my life. Life is amazing for me, great relationships. So certainly people can come to me. If they don't though, just know that no matter what situation you're in, if you're suffering, life doesn't have to be about suffering. There is a better way. And the method that I use is a quick method. Like I have seen crazy transformation in a matter of like 3 or 4 hours with some of my clients. You don't need to go to a talk therapist and spend 5 years doing this. You just don't need to do it. There is a better way. So if you're suffering, know that if you really want to change and you're willing to see things from a different perspective, like your life can radically change in a matter of, hours.
Wow. Do you believe I have ADHD, right? Whether it's a figment of my imagination or whatever, how would I conquer that?
So first of all, you should read Gabor's book because he's got an entire book dedicated to it. Honestly, working with someone like me, because your ADHD is just you're in like a fight or flight mode. Something happened in your childhood, likely, that got you to disassociate and get out of the present moment. And because you haven't done the work to separate yourself from your adult and childlike life, you still live in the past. That's what trauma does. It takes you out of the present and into the past. So you're living in the past. So what we do is through this work that I do, we get you into the present. And that's how true happiness is, right?
Yeah.
Heaven on earth is right here, right now. If you're not worried about what's going to happen tomorrow and you're not letting your memory ruin yesterday, then you're happy.
So how much do you think about money now that you've made this transformation? How much is money on your mind?
So way less than it was because money was the vehicle to prove my worth. So this coaching company that I formed 6 months ago is the first business venture I've ever started in my life where I didn't think about how am I going to make a ton of money. My focus now is how do I make a lot of impact? And that's the same focus I have in my express home buyers fix and flip business. I've now changed to how can I impact my employees? How can I impact my sellers? How can we impact our investors in a positive way? Instead of focusing on money, I'm focusing on impact, and we're doing amazing. So I think if more people would focus on making an impact in people's lives, they would make more money than ever. I started a Keller Williams team in 2008 to try to be the first team to sell $1 billion in a year. So I was focused on the top line. Why? Because if I sold $1 billion, maybe I'd be worthy of something.
Mm-hmm.
Had I gone in and said, "Hey, I'm going to construct the best team with the best service that Keller Williams ever had," I would have had a way better chance of getting to $1 billion and actually making money than I did trying to shoot for $1 billion. It was just silly.
Yeah. Wow. So let me ask you this: if after coming to this realization that this is what is true happiness, what is the number one thing that you've gotten rid of in your life that you used to do that you feel like has made a giant impact, like a habit or something?
Well, easy answer. It's just my thinking. I started living in the truth. So for 47 years, my subconscious brain was telling me, you're not worthy. You've got to go prove yourself. And I woke up that day in Park City, or got off the out of the session, and I'm like, wait, I don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. Oh my gosh, like a weight just got lifted off my chest. It was amazing. So that's the one thing. And that's the one thing that everyone who's suffering does is they don't live in the truth. They live about these lies about who they are. And that's not who they really are. Everyone at their essence is an amazing human being. They may not behave as an amazing human being, but the reason they don't behave as an amazing human being is because they tell themselves our prisons are full of people. They weren't born a prisoner. They weren't born a criminal. They were born a beautiful child that happened to be corrupted through their parents' poor beliefs.
Well, yeah. I mean, from what you're saying, it makes complete sense. Let me ask you: does religion take any part into this equation, or is this not religious at all?
So at the core of it, there is no religion involved. I'm a believer in God. I've become closer to God through this process. Do you need to be a believer in God to make this work? No. I think it's really important to think that there's a universe out there and that there's a higher power of some way, shape, or form. There are more grains of sand on every beach on the earth. There are more stars in the sky than grains of sand. Our universe, you can't even fathom how big it is. So there's a lot more out there that we don't know, and
Right.
maybe we'll never know. Maybe we will. But yeah, if you believe in a higher power, or that there's a greater universe, or that there's a greater good going on, it's going to help a lot in your journey.
Is this new knowledge to the, I guess, scientific community or in general that they're 1 to 10 years old determines disease, your mindset, all that? Is that new?
Well, that part, yes, I'm sorry. That part is I think is newer and newer. Yes, it is. The fact that the stress, although what I say it's newer, when all the books I've read, people have been talking about this for 60 to 80 years. It's just it's never gone anywhere because think about this. If I go to the doctor, does the doctor ever ask me about like, well, are you under stress or what was your childhood like? No. They're like, let's this is what Western medicine's all about. Let me label you, diagnose you, and then give you a drug.
Right.
So if they can do it through talk therapy, where's the money? Do you know how much pharmaceutical? You go and look at every pharmaceutical drug that's out there, and 90% plus could be traced back to the stress that you've had from childhood trauma. So it's one of those things in life where you just have to follow the money trail and you
Mhm.
can see why it's not talked about more. But thanks to Gabor, he's talking about it and he's getting some huge press from his book.
Did Gabor did he help you along this journey, or was it mainly the seal and the lady in Park City?
So I've been fortunate to work under like 3 or 4 of what I think some of the best people in the business. So he was just one of the people.
Wow. How'd you get linked up with that? Like that's a completely different industry than home buying. Like was it just a different circle you're running in, or how did that happen?
I mean, it's just through like I've probably read 40 books and spent 1,000 to 2,000 hours on this since my transformation last February. It's all I do. It's all I do is just trying to become the best so that I can impact and have the biggest impact on the most people.
Do you believe that this is something that the average person can do? They can change, or do you feel like this is like it takes a certain person, like skills, not skill set, but like I don't know, high level individual to be able to change? I guess what happened within the last 1 to 10 years when they were born.
Here are the only people that can truly change. Number one, they've got to want to change, and number two, they have to have a willingness to see things from a different perspective. So anyone in the world, if they have those two characteristics, can change.
Wow. So it's not like you have to achieve a certain intelligence or IQ or ability to like do this. Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it.
Wow, you got me thinking. Usually I'm pretty upbeat, but I'm like, you got me. You probably have this effect on a lot of your people you talk to.
Well, I do. I mean, it gets you thinking, right? Because the only time you can change is when you have awareness of something. And people might be like, well, I don't know what this self love stuff he's talking about. I don't know if I have like what does that even mean? Well,
Yeah.
it means just that. It means that you love yourself. And so many people I talk to say, well, I love myself. And I go, well, do you? Let's do a little test. Are you constantly triggered? Are you constantly in a state of like anger, depression? Do you find yourself judging people all the time? Do you judge yourself all the time? Do you have self-destructive behaviors? Do you eat too much, drink too much, smoke too much? What are your relationships like? Are you in a deeply connected relationship, or have you gone from are you in a shitty relationship and has every relationship been like boom, boom, boom? If you answer yes to any of those questions, you have some component of lacking self-love and self-compassion. And if that's the case, every area of your life is negatively affected.
Wow. Because I think about my childhood, like just, like most people, I would assume that their parents tried their best, but they weren't the best, right? Like it just happens, right? They neglect, hitting or whatever. It happens. But I thought, just before talking, I just thought that was life. And you just got to man up and just go through and do your best. And I have no ill will towards the parents. I think they're amazing. But I mean, if you're talking about issues from 1 to 10, then I'm assuming I have quite a bit like anybody else.
Yeah, and again, so I would once we're off the call, I would just look at your life and look at all the things that didn't go right, the relationships, your health, how are you in a day? Are you upset? Do you get triggered a lot? All of those things will be sign that you have work to do, and if you're willing to do the work, the other side of where you're at is magical, absolutely magical.
Well, I'm curious, who doesn't need work? I mean, who have you ever met that hasn't had something crazy happen in that 10-year span? I mean, it's gonna happen, right? So like, do you feel like there's some people that are just like had the best parents, best situation, and they're fine?
I mean, look, of the hundreds of people I've talked to, ironically, I just had a session with my business partner earlier today,
Uh-huh.
and I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything. But how many people is that? Nathan, it is such a small percentage. I mean, a
Right.
fraction of a small percentage. So who could use it? Pretty much everyone. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like it, because I just know from my experience and from friends' experience, like it's just life gives you curveballs, right? To your parents, your friends, your family, and if you're raised in that kind of environment and you just brush it off because you're like, that's just life. I mean, from what you're saying, it sounds like you can still overcome. You can overcome those issues that you probably buried.
There's no brushing off anything, by the way, Nathan. You may
Yeah.
you may think you brushed it off, but all you have to look at is look at your relationships and your success in life. Not success from a financial standpoint. Success to me is, do you wake up in the morning feeling good about life? Do you put your head on the pillow at night feeling good about life? Or are you constantly stressed? Are you constantly angry? Are you beating yourself up, negative self-talk? Any of that stuff you haven't kicked, you can't push anything aside. That's the thing. Suck it up. Nah, that doesn't work.
Wow. You got a lot of good stuff to tell. I mean, I'm sure I don't, honestly, I'm just trying to think. I'm like, what could he tell you to change your trauma, or not even trauma, but like what has happened that might be affecting you negatively? I have no idea, but it sounds interesting. I think we got to talk more.
Love it, man. I'm always here.
All right, let's go. Well, hey everybody, this has been amazing. If you have anything you want to work on with yourself, I mean, I believe that mindset and self-development is one of the most, it's something I'm extremely passionate about. So when you're talking about Gable and all that stuff, like, I think it's amazing. I want to be a better father once I have children. I want to be able to provide and be, to avoid these issues that are obviously causing a lot of problems for people. So I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, just I put out a daily video on freedom and happiness, and I'm on all the social media platforms, and all of my links are at bradchandler.com/contact. So just go follow me, and if I can help you in any way, my phone number's on there. You don't have to suffer 1 second, 1 hour longer. If it's not me, I'll get you someone else that can help you.
Powerful, powerful message. Well, thank you so much, Brad. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.